what's a quotient rule? The quotient rule is instead of two things multiplied by each other, you're going to have F divided by G. The quotient rule is always more difficult than the product rule. And as you can see here, the formula looks more ugly. So to find the derivative here, the formula given is f prime gx minus f at x times g prime divided by g squared. I find that a little hard to memorize as well. So here's my take on it. Basically, whenever you have a quotient rule, you have a fraction. You have a fraction in the format of top and bottom, like u divided by v, top and bottom, right? And here's how I remember it. This is the top, and that's the bottom. The derivative of the function, so a y, let me put in a y here. So to find the derivative y prime, it's v times u prime minus u times v prime divided by v squared. The problem with quotient rule is it's a subtraction. And whenever you subtract, the order matters. When you add, order doesn't matter. 2 plus 3 is equal to 3 plus 2. So product rule, it doesn't matter. Even if you flip the orders, there's no big deal. But 2 minus 3 is not the same thing as 3 minus 2. So order matters for the quotient rule. And that's the most common mistake for quotient rule is people switch the orders and therefore got the answers that's opposite. Instead of plus 3, they get negative 3. So what I do is I say, okay, just remember this. You always start with bottoms up, right? Always start with the bottoms up. So when I write the formula, I put the bottom up. So I put a V first. The first term, it's always bottoms up. You put the bottom V on top. Then you multiply by u prime. Then the other half, u v prime over bottom square. Bottom times derivative of the top minus the top times derivative of the bottom, all divided by bottom square. So that's how I remembered it, bottoms up. So as long as you remember bottoms up, that means that's the order of what you're going to put down first. You put the denominator up on the top first, and then you take the derivative of the top. Let me show you an example. Okay, so here, what I have here is I have a quotient. I have something divided by something else. I'm going to call the top u, and I'm going to call the bottom v. Again, I write them out. U is x squared. U prime is easy, 2x. V, I'm just looking at the bottom here. It's x plus 1. And the derivative of just the bottom, it's simply a 1, right? X becomes a 1, 1 becomes a 0. Now, again, I have the 4 things. I just have to fill in the formula. The formula states that I do bottom up. So I start off with the bottom. I write it down in the numerator. Then I multiply by the top, the derivative of the top, subtract the top times the derivative of the bottom, all divided by bottom square. Okay. V u prime minus u v prime over v square. Bottom times the derivative of the top minus the top times derivative of the bottom, all divided by bottom square. Okay. I'm not worried about the simplification here because that's relatively easy to do, right? 2x squared plus 2x minus x squared, you can simplify that. I just want to practice more of the quotient. Okay, so this one's a bit more complicated, but that's okay. Just because it looks more complicated doesn't mean the question is hard. You just have to recognize this is a quotient rule. You have a u and you have a v, right? The division sign, you have a fraction, you have a quotient, you're going to apply quotient rule. In order to do quotient rule, I'm going to do the four things again separately to minimize and make the question easier, right? Try not to do everything at once. That's always a good strategy when you are facing a daunting task, something that seems to be big and complicated, right? Always trying to chunk it down, focus on one thing at a time. It makes life a lot easier. So even this function may look complicated, chunk it down, look at one thing at a time. Just look at the top, x squared. I'm sure you can find the derivative of the top. That's 2x. Again, just look at the bottom. The bottom is 3 plus x squared to the power of 4, right? If you did the homework yesterday, you recognize, well, that's a chain rule that we did yesterday. So the derivative is 4, 3 plus x squared to the power of 3. And I need to multiply by the chain, which is the derivative of what's inside the bracket. The 3 becomes a 0, it's gone. X squared becomes 2x. Okay, now usually when it's a single term and a single term there, we combine them together, we make it ax times 3 plus x squared to the power of 3. Now I have the four things. I can sub into the formula. The formula says bottoms up v u prime minus u v prime over v squared. So I just need to put those four things into the formula. First of all, what is v? Well, that's 3 plus x squared to the power of 4. What is u prime? Well, u prime's over here. That's 2x. Minus, again, has to be a minus sign. U, oh, that's x squared. V prime, that's this guy over here. Ax times 3 plus x squared to the power of 3, all divided by bottom, which is 3 plus x squared to the power of 4, all square. uv, u prime, minus u, v prime, divided by v squared. The formula may look complicated, but as long as you understand what you're trying to do, separate the top and the bottom, find the derivative separately, fill it into the formula. Do we simplify that? Yes, we do simplify it.